Okay, so I feel like this question is going to be really relevant to our conversation today. So I'm going to ask it now. When pain increases, hearing improves, right? You're not going to change anything unless your life really sucks. Change is hard, and changes with diet can be very, very challenging and really difficult. And for some people, they are never really able to do that. What challenges did you run into when you first started to switch your diet over to a more ketogenic diet? Was it terribly challenging for you, or was your life so bad with a mushy brain that you were willing to do whatever it took?
So I was willing to do whatever it took. But here's the thing. When I was stuck on all my chronic pain medication, I was seeing a functional medicine person and I was eating like a whole foods diet. So at that point, there was still some grain. So I was, of course, chomping down the quinoa, and eating the sweet potatoes and having tons of, peppers and um but my protein was too low. Like it was a whole foods diet though. By all accounts, I was doing everything right. Right. So when I kept doing that, but when I learned about the ketogenic diet, so for me, it wasn't too harsh of a transition because it was like, oh, I already have been cooking. I already know how to cook. I just have to learn how to take some of these things out and add other things. And so for me, it wasn't as hard. Although anybody who's come from a paleo or whole foods type of diet and goes to, 30 grams total carbs still knows it's quite the adjustment in terms of cooking. And so there's definitely behavior change that happens there. Um, but it's, and then my brain wasn't working very well. Cooking and following recipes was hard. It had to be very, very simple. So some people are coming into this from a different place, totally acknowledge that. If someone has been relying on highly processed foods as a way to soothe emotions and to reward in ways that are not consistent with their long-term goals or long-term well-being, it can be a little bit of an adjustment. So I just meet people where they're at. Like, if the first thing we do is get rid of the we stop buying the Cheetos and the giant cheesecakes at Costco and bringing them home. Like if that's the first thing we do, that's the first thing we do. And we just move them towards it. You can start small. You can just start small. It's a journey. I mean, you've been submerged in this highly processed food culture since you were a child, very likely, and it does feel overwhelming. But I'm also it's really important. So there's two things. So it's really important to understand that if you are a cognitive and emotional hot mess right now, before you start your ketogenic diet, do not assume that you are going to have that exact same brain trying to stay on this diet. In my experience, the mood improves so much better that you just don't reach for the same comforts as you used to. Your taste buds will change. We've all heard that a million times, but it's true. And your brain function, your ability to plan, your ability to remember, all of those basic cognitive functions that you need in order to put a big lifestyle change in place and keep it, they improve. So if you feel like you're a train wreck of sorts and you can't remember to bring your grocery bags to the store, let alone remember what things to get that are keto and what things that aren't, and count your carbohydrates, don't worry. In a few days to weeks, that's going to be easier. It really is. It really does get easier. Um, and if you have to go keto or carnivore or whatever, you can make it stupid simple for the first week or the first 2 weeks even. And you're going to have a different brain at the end of that week or those 2 weeks. That's going to make it just a little bit easier for you to make these changes or put these changes into place. So that's one big thing that I think people don't understand. The other thing that I think people need to understand is if you have anxiety, for example, and it is severe enough or bad enough or has impaired your life enough or has sucked the quality of your life out enough, that you have gone to a physician and asked for medication, that's hard. That means your symptoms are enough that you have sought out help, that you can't manage them on your own. And I want you to understand that dietary changes that make you feel really good are not harder than that. So a lot of people who have anxiety and depression, they think that changing their diet is going to be harder than feeling like crap. I promise you, how you feel right now is way harder than changing your food sources towards a lower carbohydrate count that's going to change your brain metabolism in such a way that it helps your neurotransmitter balance. It reduces, like, you're going to feel a lot better. It's what you're going through right now, I promise you, is way harder than transitioning to a ketogenic diet and sticking to it. You can do this. And if your brain is not working very well, like I said, that's going to get better pretty darn quick, very likely. And you'll be able to do this and sustain this and have a better quality of life.
That was so perfectly said. I absolutely love that, and that's really what I wanted to kind of craft this conversation around. We talk all the time about all the amazing research that's going on with schizophrenia and bipolar and Alzheimer's, dementia, all of these things, and ketogenic diets and all the wonderful things they do. But the mental health issues that I'm seeing is on the ground. It's happening very young. It's happening uh, to a whole lot of people out there who are getting on meds very, very early. They're suffering from depression, anxiety. It's almost more rare to find somebody who doesn't struggle with any of that. And I really wanted to hammer home that for that person who thinks this is going to be terribly challenging, it's too difficult, or I'm too young, and my friends all do different things. I really wanted to really focus this on that. And I'll give you a great example. Yesterday, I did a new consultation for a young couple, been married about 2 years. Some health things creeping in, definitely some mental health. And they also want to lose a few pounds. So I just kind of introduced what I do and taught them about strength training and diets. And they asked me the question, when should we start to expect results? And I think they were referring more to the physical side of things and like weight loss. And I said, you can expect to not even care about weight loss in like a few weeks. You'll forget. You'll lose fat. You'll lose weight. That's no problem. Like you will lean out, but you won't even care. That's how powerful this way of eating is. Your primary goal now is not even something that will cross your mind in a few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. It changes everything. It changes everything. And
Mhm.
in really great ways for people. It's a great option for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
So how you already gave us some good clues. Like if you're already asking for help, if you're already seeking somebody in the medical world to write you a prescription, you kind of, that's a really good clue that things have gone a little bit too far and you need to start worrying about this. Maybe even before that, are there other signs and symptoms of what you call like your brain not really working right that people should be paying attention for to show that this is already starting to manifest as a problem that could get worse over time?
Yeah. So difficulty finding words consistently in conversations is an issue. That's a big one. If you are giving, I had a lady in my brain fog recovery program who is a professional, and she would do presentations. And of course, she knew the material beautifully. I mean, she's well enough to teach it, that she's giving a presentation on it, but she was having trouble finding words, and the people in the audience were helping her find words during her own presentation. So, and so that's a big one. Um, it's the ability to just be able to hold things in your head long enough to accomplish something. So we've all had the experience of like, what did I just come in this room for? And maybe that's because we're multitasking and we're holding too much, trying to do too much. But if that happens a lot, pay attention to that. That's a big deal. If you are suddenly super clumsy or much more clumsy, or you seem to be having difficulty tracking your body in space, and you're knocking glasses over and running into things with your shins and a lot, that can also be a brain fog symptom. That can be that there's some issues going on with different parts of the brain. Of course, if you start to forget faces a lot more, that's a thing. If you can't get places without really struggling to figure out the pathway to that. So using the Google navigation tool for simple things across town, like I'm over here at Winco, the grocery store, and I need to get over here to the drugstore to get my prescription, but somehow I can't quite figure out how to do that because I'm not going my usual way, right? But I still know the neighborhood. That is another one. So there's lots of stuff that we giggle about as brain fog and call menopause brain or whatever, but those really need to be paid attention to, and they do deserve much better care than we're getting. And my issue is that a lot of people are coming to the doctor with cognitive symptoms that, because those cognitive symptoms are part of a DSM-5 diagnosis for depression or another mood disorder, they're receiving mood disorder diagnoses instead of the doctor effectively addressing the cognitive symptoms that are a piece of that. And, psychotropic medications are not a great treatment or really a treatment at all for early cognitive impairment symptoms. And we're just not really investigating those carefully. And so those cognitive symptoms, they are getting basically ignored. And that means a neurodegenerative process is being ignored and allowed to progress, which means more destruction of neurons, more depletion of micronutrients, more problems later on down the road. And if we're really serious about dementia prevention in this country, that needs to stop. That there needs to be a much better way to kind of conceptualize these symptoms coming in for treatment.